Giganotosaurus never fought Tyrannosaurus rex. They never met. They never lived on the same continent. They weren't even separated by a few thousand years. They were separated by roughly 30 million years, longer than the entire time between Tyrannosaurus rex and today. Everything you've seen about Giganotosaurus versus T-Rex comes from movies, games, and internet debates. Paleontology tells a completely different story, because Giganotosaurus wasn't built to fight Tyrannosaurus. It was built to hunt something even bigger. Subscribe if you enjoy discovering what the fossils actually say before Hollywood rewrites it again. For years, one sentence has appeared everywhere. Giganotosaurus was the biggest meat-eating dinosaur that ever lived. It sounds impressive. It also isn't something science can confidently say. The problem begins with a single fossil. The most complete Giganotosaurus specimen, catalogued as MUCPV-CH1, was discovered in Patagonia in 1993. It preserved about 70% of the skeleton, large enough to revolutionize paleontology, but still incomplete. Researchers estimated its length at around 12 to 13 meters. Then another fossil appeared. Not another skeleton, just part of a lower jaw. From that fragment alone, some estimates suggested an animal reaching nearly 14 meters. Those numbers spread rapidly across documentaries, websites, museum exhibits, and television. But the jaw was never associated with a complete skeleton, which means nobody actually knows how large that individual was. The largest Giganotosaurus ever reconstructed exists partly because of mathematical extrapolation, not because a complete giant skeleton has ever been found. That distinction matters, because Tyrannosaurus rex has several exceptionally complete skeletons. Sue, Scotty, Stan, multiple individuals that allow direct comparison. Giganotosaurus does not. So the famous question, which was bigger, still has no definitive scientific answer. Type Giga if you grew up believing Giganotosaurus was unquestionably the largest predator ever discovered. Or T-Rex if you always suspected the story was more complicated. Now the real surprise begins. Because even if Giganotosaurus wasn't necessarily bigger, it may have hunted animals that no Tyrannosaurus ever had to face. The world of Giganotosaurus looked nothing like the world of Tyrannosaurus rex. Tyrannosaurus dominated North America near the very end of the Cretaceous, about 67 million years ago. Giganotosaurus lived roughly 98 million years ago in what is now Argentina. 30 million years earlier, its world was warmer, sea levels were higher, flowering plants were only beginning to spread, and the largest animals walking the planet were not hadrosaurs or triceratops. They were titanosaurs. Some stretched over 30 meters long, some weighed more than 70 tons. The prey available to Giganotosaurus dwarfed almost everything Tyrannosaurus ever encountered, which may explain why these predators evolved in completely different directions. Tyrannosaurus developed perhaps the strongest bite force ever measured for a terrestrial animal. Modern biomechanical models estimate well over 35,000 newtons, enough to crush bone, enough to puncture armored skeletons, enough to eat almost every part of a carcass. Giganotosaurus didn't evolve that weapon. Its skull was longer, lighter, less reinforced. Its jaws generated a substantially weaker bite, but they carried something equally effective: long blade-like teeth designed not for crushing, but for slicing. Instead of killing with one overwhelming bite, many paleontologists believe Giganotosaurus inflicted repeated deep wounds that caused catastrophic blood loss. The same broad strategy seen in large sharks today. Not stronger, different, and perfectly adapted to prey that outweighed the predator by many times. Some researchers have even proposed that Giganotosaurus hunted cooperatively, not because direct evidence exists, it doesn't, but because multiple individuals have been discovered in close association with the related Carcharodontosaur Mapusaurus. Whether Giganotosaurus itself hunted in coordinated groups remains uncertain. The fossils simply don't preserve behavior that clearly. What they do preserve is an ecosystem unlike anything Tyrannosaurus ever experienced. Massive titanosaurs, enormous sauropods, open floodplains stretching across Patagonia, a predator shaped by an entirely different evolutionary experiment. Hollywood wanted a fight. Nature built two completely different apex predators solving two completely different problems. They never competed, they never met, and they never needed to, because the real story was always far more interesting than the battle people imagined.